Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alyson Le Grange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost. Hello and welcome to Firstpost Africa, where we get you the top stories from the continent and from across the world. I'm Alyson Le Grange, coming to you live from Durban, South Africa. First, let's take a look at the headlines. US Vice President Kamala Harris bags enough Democratic delegates to be nominated as the party's presidential candidate. Final decision to be taken at the August 19th Democratic National Convention. Ukrainian Foreign Minister Dmytro Kuleba visits Beijing to meet his Chinese counterpart. This as Kiev urges Beijing to support its proposal for sustainable peace in the Russia-Ukraine war. Israeli forces kill at least 7 Palestinians and 2 gunmen during a raid in West Bank. Israel says its military carried out an anti-terror operation. Myanmar's military chief becomes the country's acting president after the nominal head of state goes on medical leave, allowing the junta leader to handle matters of national security. And the United Kingdom declares violence against women and girls a national emergency. British police say they record over 3,000 offences against females daily. Hello and welcome. Our top focus today is on Uganda. Anti-government rallies have erupted in the East African nation, and authorities have launched a crackdown on the demonstrators. Several young protesters have been detained in the capital Kampala. Now, these protests were planned by young Ugandans who are frustrated over the rampant corruption in the country. Ahead of the protests, there was a heavy security deployment in the capital of Kampala. All roads to Parliament were blocked, but despite the heavy military and police deployment, protesters went ahead with the anti-corruption march. Several small rallies broke out in the street of Uganda. Now, the planning of these protests resembles very much the ongoing anti-government protests in neighbouring Kenya. In Kenya, Gen Z-led rallies have put intense pressure on the ruling government led by President William Ruto. Even though Ruto has made several concessions, the youth stays firm in their demands. Though their initial demand was to scrap the proposed tax hikes, they now seek to end corruption, poor governance in Kenya, with many demanding Ruto to resign. Young Ugandans have been inspired by these protests. They organized today's rally online using the hashtag #StopCorruption. Just how the rallies were organized by the Gen Z in Kenya, using social media and hashtags. However, Uganda's President Yoweri Museveni had warned the demonstrators that they will be playing with fire if they go ahead. Just like his Kenyan counterpart, he has blamed the violence and unrest on foreign elements. Museveni has maintained his iron-fisted rule over Uganda for almost 4 decades. He has long been accused of failing to prosecute corrupt senior officials who are politically loyal or related to him. However, he has repeatedly denied these allegations. Museveni has also been accused of frequently launching a crackdown on opposition. Just ahead of today's planned protest, the opposition headquarters were seized and 3 lawmakers with the opposition group were detained by police. Opposition has extended its support for today's rally. So first Kenya and now Uganda. Gen Z-led rallies have transcended boundaries. Now, what kind of change and impact will these protests bring? Shifting focus to Sudan, the country is resuming its diplomatic ties with Iran after years of halts. Now, both nations exchanged ambassadors after 8 years on Sunday. Sudan's army chief, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, received Hassan Shah Hosseini, the new Iranian ambassador in Port Sudan, while he sent Abdelaziz Hassan Saleh as the African country's ambassador to Tehran. Sudan broke off relations with Iran in 2016 in a show of solidarity with Saudi Arabia. This after the Saudi embassy in Tehran was attacked following the kingdom's execution of a prominent Shia cleric. Several Saudi allies in the region had cut ties with Iran at the time. However, in March of 2023, Riyadh and Tehran announced the surprising restoration of their relations, following an agreement brokered by China. Iran has since moved to restore relations with neighbouring Arab countries, while Sudan has also looked for allies amidst its ongoing fight against paramilitary rapid security forces. Since Sudan's war between the Sudanese army and the RSF began in April of 2023, several foreign powers have supported the warring sides, including Iran. Reports have indicated Iran has provided drones to the Sudanese army. The army has also attempted to forge closer ties with Russia and is also backed by Egypt and Turkey, while countries like the UAE have been accused of backing the RSF. In December, Sudan expelled diplomats from the UAE on allegations that the Gulf state was funneling weapons to the RSF. However, interestingly, Sudan's reset of ties with Iran comes just days after its outreach to the UAE. The UAE president and Sudan army chief exchanged a phone call last week where the UAE leader expressed his country's support for Sudan and finding a solution to end the ongoing conflict. The brutal civil war in Sudan has been raging for over a year. The war has killed tens of thousands of people, with some estimates placing the death toll as high as 150,000. It has also created the world's worst displacement crisis, with at least 11 million people uprooted, while there are reports of sexual abuse and atrocities against women. The country is also on the brink of famine. In Nigeria, a complex and high-stakes drama is unfolding in the oil sector. And central to the controversy is the Dangote refinery, a colossal $20 billion project spearheaded by Alyson Dangote, Africa's richest man. Now, this refinery, which began operations in January of 2023, was hailed as a game changer for Nigeria's oil industry. However, it now finds itself at the center of a fierce dispute involving Nigeria's regulatory and major oil companies. The conflict began to surface after Dangote's refinery struggled to secure adequate crude oil supplies. And despite being a key player in one of Africa's largest oil-producing countries, Dangote refinery was forced to source crude from abroad, adding to its operational challenges. Tensions escalated when Dangote's refinery accused international oil majors of obstructing its access to locally produced crude, and Nigerian midstream and downstream petroleum regulatory authority of permitting importation of lower quality fuels. The refinery argued that such practices undermined its operations and the quality of its products.
What we are going to get into, I wouldn't have even started it at all. And you can really see honestly, we didn't have a single idea of what we were getting into. And that is why right from the beginning, we launched 31 projects, all concurrently. So, I mean, this one here alone is enough to give somebody gray hair, headache, and whatever. And, you know, but it's like what I said, we're in the middle of the sea. If we stop swimming, we'll sink. The only option is just to continue swimming, no matter how tired you are.
In response, Nigerian regulatory authorities dismissed these claims, asserting that Dangote's refinery was only 45% complete and that its gas oil was substandard compared to imported alternatives. Further adding fuel to fire, Nigerian lawmakers launched an investigation into these allegations. A newly formed committee is now tasked with probing claims of fuel contamination, the operations of regulatory bodies, and the overall state of oil sector. Now, the situation took a dramatic turn when Dangote invited lawmakers to inspect his refinery. And tests conducted there revealed that the sulfur content in the refinery's diesel was 87.6 parts per million. The number is significantly lower than that of other locally available fuels, which exceeded 1,800 parts per million and 2,800 parts per million.
We started with about 700 ppm, which is true. That is why we started, because, you know, it was a new plant. We have not commissioned most of them. So by the time that we finish now, we have commissioned part of it. So I'm actually surprised for somebody to come and mention that, yes, we have a bad quality. We and the other modular refineries. I can't talk about the quality of the modular refineries, but our own today, like what I said, our own production, you have seen, we have tested it, is 87 ppm. And by the time you come even on Monday, we'll be at 50. By beginning of August, end of this month, beginning of August, we'll be at 10 ppm.
Compounding the dispute, Dangote recently announced that he would halt his plans to invest in Nigeria's steel sector. This development follows a presidential election that saw President Bola Tinubu replace Muhammadu Buhari, who is an avid ally of Dangote and currently head of state. So as the legislative investigation continues, the broader implications of this conflict are becoming apparent. Hence, in the midst of this turbulence, the outcome of the investigation and the resolution of these disputes will be critical for Nigeria's oil industry, Dangote's business empire, and the broader economic landscape of the nation.
At the heart of Mauritania's vast desert lies a green oasis. It's a village called Maden, which means the deposit of knowledge. Life here is not just different than other Mauritanian villages, but it is an epitome of an ideal world. People here are not divided on the basis of color, gender or race, but they practice communal living, spirituality and sustainable agriculture for a harmonious existence. The village was founded in 1975 by a Sufi spiritual guide, Muhammad Lamin Sidina. Sidina had a vision to build a community based on equality, tolerance and hard work. More than 20 years after his death, his legacy continues to stay. Sidina's son, Imam Taha, who lives in the village, shares how.
Everyone helps everyone. Each neighbor helps his neighbor. For example, if you were someone living in the village of Maden, wanting to know how to dig a well, you'll find that all the residents will come to help for free.
This transformation did not happen overnight. People here have tried to live up to Sidina's vision every day. The village has grown house by house. Residents first built a small dam to retain precious water, then laid out fields. They then founded a school and set up a community clinic. Hospitality is a central tenet of Madan's philosophy, with the visitor centre welcoming, housing and feeding everyone who passes through.
The peculiarities of Madan are that it is a special village, a Sufi village, and therefore it is based on certain human values and morals such as solidarity, such as respect, such as tolerance, such as acceptance of the other, such as work especially.
Then comes agriculture, which has been a crucial factor for the thriving village. The community's arable land expands a little day by day, and farmers boast of their excellent harvest.
This is my first time cultivating this piece of land here, and I started with tomatoes, onions, carrots, dates, peppers, and many other vegetables. The land is good here, and we can live with what we produce. The community embraces the environmental ethos.
In the efforts to implement sustainable agriculture, the remote village switched to organic farming. Farmers have transformed their agricultural practices thanks to techniques brought by Pierre Rabhi, a pioneer of organic farming in France. Rabhi travelled to Mauritania in 2018, 3 years before his death. It was then that he fell under the spell of Madan and passed on his environmental ethos to the local population.
When Pierre Rabhi came, he taught us to make compost and put it under the palm. It makes the soil more fertile and gives better date production.
The village also stands out for women's rights. While in other parts of Mauritania, a mere contact between a man and a woman from different families is forbidden, in Madan, women have assumed all kinds of roles. While they work in fields, they also do manual work and are allowed to interact with men.
It's a good place to live. We have a lot of production, and people work in the similar conditions, men and women. We all support each other. It's a good thing.
The story of Madan has so far remained unknown, but it could certainly be an example not just for other parts of Mauritania, but for any society to pursue.
And that's it on the show for today. We will see you again tomorrow at the same time. Thank you for watching and goodbye.